What's up, gentlemen? How are you both doing today?
What's up?
Good. How are you? What's up?
Pretty good. How's everything up in Maine? Where exactly is Funky Bow?
Um, Up in Maine.
Yeah, it's Maine, like Sherwood Forest.
Oh, is Robin Hood one of your neighbors?
Actually, yeah.
Kind of hard to get here, man.
No, I hope to make it.
We're in the middle of the woods up on a hill in Lyman on an organic farm.
Maine is actually the only state.
We're surrounded by an 18-hole disc golf course.
That sounds amazing. Maine's actually the only state on the East Coast that I haven't had the opportunity to visit, and I truly can't make it up. Wait to make it up to your neck of the woods. Hopefully within the next year during much better times. But more importantly, I'm excited to have a conversation with you both today because when Matt with River Drive connected us, he told me you have a great story to tell, and normally with a great story, there's a lot of surprises. But I think the biggest surprise, or what should be the elephant in the room, really isn't the elephant in the room, because the whole thing about you guys that Matt first mentioned was how you went 7 years without talking, then you've reconnected, and now you own a brewery together. So now that we've got that out of the way, I think there's a lot more interesting things.
That's the story.
Well, then I guess we can end this right now. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. Paul and Abraham signing off. But let's fast forward a little bit, or should I say go backwards a little bit. So you guys now, you both own a brewery in Lyman, Maine together called Funky Bow, which sounds like a fantastic place. You have a disc golf course. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't you say you have ice skating as well?
We do. We just started that. We built the rink last fall, and it's been fairly popular.
So are you the only brewery in the country that's also an ice skating rink?
Yes.
And disc golf, I hear.
So what's next on the agenda? Is there anything else unique you can add to that?
Yes, paddleball.
Skeet shooting.
And do you plan on adding both those in the next 12 months?
No firearms, but yes, this spring we'll be putting in pickleball, paddleball, whatever you want to play.
Pickleball.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're a complete destination. But now I'm going to rewind a little bit and figure out how we got here. So, obviously we've said that you guys went quite some time without speaking, and that was 7 years or so?
Or so,
yeah.
Or so.
Yeah, it's not important. It's just a number. But, I want to go back even further than that. When Abraham, you were just a little guy, and Paul, you were a little bit littler as well, I suppose.
Are you talking about when he would steal the roaches out of my ashtray in my truck?
Do I look?
Yeah, I would love to hear about when you guys were just growing up together. What was that like? What kind of things did you do for fun?
I was really little.
When we moved from Mass to Maine, moved back here, he got a little older and he goes, Dad, you remember when we used to go on vacation? And we'd get all packed up and we'd be halfway out of the driveway and you'd say, "Oh, I forgot something." And you'd run back inside and you'd come out. We all could smell the weed.
So before that got involved, though, when you guys were kids, some dads played catch with their sons, some go on bike rides, vacations. What kind of things did you two do for fun?
We went skiing.
He
would pick me up at school and tell the person at the front desk I had a dental appointment.
He'd come out crying.
Yeah, I'd come out crying, and then we go skiing. That was a big one. We're in Maine. You got to go skiing. Boating,
skiing,
working,
hiking, mountain biking.
And you never got caught with all those dentist appointments?
What are they going to do to me?
I need a lot. I need a lot of dentist appointments in my life.
Well, you both have nice smiles, so it looks like the dentist actually did some work there and helped you out.
I eventually went to the dentist. Yeah.
Yeah, I owned a landscaping company, and it cost me a lot of work at this dentist house. We used to buy.
So that's what you did back in the day, Paul. You were not a dentist. You got me confused now, but you owned a landscaping company.
I still do. I'm selling it this spring. I've owned it for 30 years.
Oh my gosh. Now, was that a line of work you had always wanted to go into, or is it something that just kind of happened?
I wanted to go into it. And when I moved back to Maine, which Maine is my home, I made it happen. It provides a nice living, and it was a a stepping stone into organic farming. It afforded me the money to do that and support it. And we were the largest supplier in the state of Maine, for southern Maine anyway, for winter greens, salad mix and stuff, only in the winter.
Oh, wow. So you went from landscaping to having this farm. It must be a pretty large farm if you're providing that much.
Well, we had 15 greenhouses at one time, 3 of which we've turned into the tap room. We put 3 of them together.
Is the entire farm in one central location, or do you have multiple properties?
No, well, we have multiple properties, but it's all on 31. The brewery's on 21, and the parking lot's on 98 Goodwin's Mills Road.
That sounds like a beautiful facility. So with the farming angle, what did you grow on the farm? You mentioned like winter greens. Is there anything else that you grew?
All greenhouse stuff. We used the winter greens to get out of snow plowing. So instead of snow plowing, we were growing mescaline mix.
And Abraham, did you help on the farm at all, or what year did the farm kind of take off?
Yeah, I was gone.
That was when we didn't talk.
So I want to go back one more time. So we went from Massachusetts to Maine. Which year did we kind of arrive to Maine?
Where are we here? Massachusetts, Maine, somewhere in between.
Well, when I got out of the Army, I started traveling the country.
Now he's going way back. Now we're going.
Okay, let's hear the story.
My family moved to Maine in 1671 to Booth Bay.
Now we're way back. How far back?
Where are we going with this, dude?
So, back in 1602,
his great-great-grandfather died on a tuna boat off the Grand Banks in 1919.
That's true.
Asmund Lewis.
That's true. I don't know if his name is Asmund Lewis.
It was Asmund.
Are you sure?
Positive. I saw it on the Fisherman's Memorial.
Yeah. So we're going way back.
Way back.
Woo! You know, we'll go.
The Wayback Machine.
No, I love it. Well, we'll fast forward a little bit to get you to this farm. So, Abraham, you were not a part of this farm whatsoever. You know, obviously there was that distance between you guys at some point. So what were you doing in your life when your dad's running a farm?
I was, I don't know. And I was just, yeah. I was just, 18 and dumb. The world is my oyster.
Yeah,
dumb.
Were you still in high school at the time, or you kind of started applying to colleges, or what was your kind of direction at that point?
No, I groveled to get him out of high school. It took me an hour and a half.
I was, I'm sorry, I was 18. I was 20. I was 20 when we stopped talking.
Yeah.
Right around there. And I don't know why, and I didn't want to work.
No, you know why. You know why.
I don't want to work.
No, you know why we stopped talking. Tell them right now. The whole world's right here.
All right, hold on. I got to get permission from my therapist to discuss this.
Most of this is evidence. I should call our lawyer.
So let's get him on here. That'd be interesting.
He's a little
people if you want.
He told us he's sick of our shit, and he doesn't like us just throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks. He's tired of it.
So we just got in a giant argument. I'll just be straight. We got in a giant argument, and I'm not going to get into details.
Well, I will.
Well, you don't even know them.
I don't know. Abraham, you were in the hot tub. It was 2 a.m. You were there with another guy and 2 women.
Day. It's a different day.
You left on that when I told you.
It wasn't just me and another guy. It was me and another guy
and 2 girls.
2 girls, women.
We don't need to get too personal in this one.
He came down. We were all clothed. It was just a regular hot tub party. But he came downstairs and was PO'd because we were causing a ruckus.
No.
But this is not really the reason I left. This was just the cherry on the
Sunday.
The elephant's back or whatever
cherry
that's saying. No, I don't know. It's a saying.
It's the straw that broke the camel's
that's
back.
What it is.
Fucking cherry.
And we just
sorry about that.
We just this was kind of like the avalanche part of it, where it's just the last little bit and then it all came down. That was it. So I just didn't want to live under the roof anymore. I wanted to be have my own way. And so before we stopped talking, I moved out. Then I got married. Then other things happened, and then we stopped talking. I was working for his landscape company. Then we stopped talking.
Right.
So you did end up working for the landscape company at some point.
Oh, my whole life.
No, he didn't. He went and worked for some other guy's landscape company.
No. Way before we stopped talking, I was working.
Oh, working. His mother didn't like him doing manual labor.
Had you already gone to the University of Southern Maine at that point, or is that following this?
That was following this. I was following. So I actually went back to college, which he always wanted me to do. So that was, he was happy about that. I'm not even sure he knew because we just weren't talking
At all. Nothing. Zero.
Unless he was spying on me.
Well, I stalked him for a while. I used to give a 6-pack, and somebody would tell me where he's living, and I'd sit out front and wait for him. And when the 6-pack was gone, I'd go home.
Well, that's good. So, drinking and driving.
No, I had a driver.
But so Abraham, you went off to school, and what did you do during those years? I mean, I guess you were already married, so you went to school.
Yeah, I mean, I was, being in school full time, working odd jobs, being a college student.
And what were your favorite odd jobs back in those years?
Whatever I could get,
Stocking shelves.
Shelves at Hannaford.
And now he sells beer there.
I was the quickest.
Cool.
I was the quickest bagger you'd see. I could bag I get people in and out. They knew my line. But I was going through college, and I was right towards the end of it, and I decided I was going to move out to California, like everyone, And
did you?
No,
I put the kibosh on that.
Yeah, so I sent him a letter. It was literally a letter.
Just before he graduated, I got a letter from him.
A letter. I mailed him something. It's unheard of these days, right? So I mailed him a letter, and he responded back with a card that had a picture of a father and son. I remember this. And it looks like they were sitting in line for like a recital or something because they had their instruments out, and there was this father was leaning over and teaching his son.
No, Abraham, I have to interrupt you for 1 second. You don't think it'd be better if you would send a picture of you guys like in a hot tub together, or a picture of like another father-son in a hot tub?
Listen, I want to clarify something.
This was before selfies, by the way. So selfies weren't like a thing.
Listen, we'll come back to this. Just let me clarify something about the hot tub. Every April 1st is when we opened the landscape business. And this was the last day of May, and I was getting up the next day to start the landscaping company. And he is down in the basement at 2 a.m, rabble-rousing. And I went down and threw them all out and told him to come upstairs. And I go, what the fuck? That's how that all started. I was trying to get ready to make money.
Right, but literally, if you fast forward through all that and all the breakup, sad stuff, and then you get to the end of college, I reached out to him, and I wanted to talk to him again before I left. So what turned into before I left turned into I didn't leave, and I was a graduate in biology and biochemistry. He knew that, so he wanted to keep me around because he knew he wanted to start a brewery, which I was fine with.
God, it's fine. They say you can take 3 people and put them on 3 different sides of a big boulder, and you ask them what they see, and each person is going to see something different. And that's what's going on here. I never knew I wanted to open a brewery until he came back and we had our first Christmas together. And him and I knew we liked beer, craft beer. And I bought us a beer kit. That's how this whole thing started. I had no idea. And just to fast forward a little bit, through this whole thing, we're making good beer. I'm hiding it in the basement and drinking it, not giving it all to him because he doesn't need as much as I do. And one day he says, I am going back to school in California. And I said, dude, why are you doing that? You just got back here. And had this bright idea of opening a brewery. We're looking around for a space. And my wife goes, why don't you two just open it here on the farm? And so we did.
Abraham, before these conversations came to be, what did you think you wanted to do with your life? I mean, you obviously went to school for, biochemistry. So you had some things you probably were thinking about doing. What was on your radar at that time?
Just to go into science somewhere, research. Yeah, work with, come up with the next coolest vaccine.
Fitting. You could have saved the world by now.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, literally, I didn't know exactly what field I wanted to go into. I just knew I wanted higher education. So there was nothing here for me. I mean, literally nothing. I was divorced at that point. Yeah, I was young, married young and divorced young. And there was really just nothing around. And until this happened again. So before this, there was nothing, right? I was just going to leave. That's all there was. That was just me on my journey. But then when we met, that's when the whole beer brewing started, using my science to hone in on beer. And that's like, it got better and better, the batches. You know, the first few batches were, I mean, my friends were, I used to play a lot of music with them, but they were really bitter. And my friends would just drink them because they were like 9%, but that was the only reason they liked them. And then as we progressed, we got better and better. And my dad was just like, wow, this beer's getting really good, you know? And I'm like, yeah. And then, you know, but I gotta go, you know, he's like, well, oh man, you're still moving. I'm like, yeah. And, you know, that was my game plan for a long time. I talked to you a lot about it.
He did. And I finally had to tell him he was going to wind up wearing a cheap ass sweater vest, teaching in some classroom with no windows. They're going to make him write a book every other year.
And that's not what you wanted?
It's not what I wanted for him.
Well, I mean, yeah, but you know, when someone says you want to open a brewery, you're like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, back then, before we were on the crest of the wave. So right then, opening a brewery, you were like the coolest person anyone knew.
I mean, there's a couple hundred breweries in Maine now, and we were number 38.
Wow.
So we were on that edge.
And people,
how close is the next closest brewery to you?
Oh, it's in Waterboro. I don't
know, 15 miles.
Yeah, 15, 20 miles.
A little bit away.
Yeah. I mean, there's another one down here.
Yeah, they're not open yet. But
when you both started,
everybody's got their own neighborhood, and we're pretty situated in the state of Maine, doing okay in New Hampshire and Mass.
So when you just had the idea to open a brewery, of kind of even before that, were you craft beer drinkers already, or is home brewing your kind of foray into getting more into the craft side of things?
Yeah, Sierra Nevada.
I mean, that was craft to us.
Lagunitas. I mean, those were our two go-tos.
You know, craft back then was not it was just getting going. You know, really, people who were making craft beer, it was a shot in the dark whether or not you were going to be, you know, a success. Now, when you open a brewery, people almost assume, oh, it's craft beer, you'll be fine. Like, just open a craft brewery. Back then, it was like, people were like, you know, especially out in this area, where there's a lot of not craft beer. You know, there's a lot of like Budweiser, Miller drinkers, you know, in our neck of the woods. And so when they came out to the brewery, though, what's this craft beer? What is this? You know, and we'd have to convince them, like, we make it and you should drink it, and you should stop drinking the Bud. And they go, okay. And they try it, and it was really flavorful. And they'd be like, wow, this is craft beer. This is insane, you know? So back then it was like, we were drinking Sierra Nevada, getting ready to make our own beer. That was the craft beer to us, Sierra Nevada and maybe Lagunitas, stuff like that. And then now it's like, if you're drinking Sierra Nevada, maybe, you know, it's great beer, but maybe it's not, you know, maybe you should find like a local brewery. No,
yeah, I mean, I think during times right now, it's exceptionally important to support local during this pandemic for sure. I mean, Sierra Nevada makes fantastic beer, but I'm sure there's other great breweries near you as well that also need support.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So,
you know, if you own a brewery, you really don't have time to go to other breweries.
So, well, especially there's not too many close to you as well, though. So I think your options are probably a little thin when you guys want to go out somewhere for a couple pints.
Well, I mean, now with the tasting rooms being closed, some of them, and just like, you know, people being restricted to size and limits, it's all weird.
We had to switch our license from tap room to restaurant in order to.
Did you have to do that at the start of the pandemic, or when did you make that decision?
Well, we did it before the start of the pandemic so that we could serve beer and wine. We've evolved into an event center with live music, 4 bands every weekend. So we still get the Budweiser drinkers up here that don't like craft beer, and we find their cans all over the freaking place at the end of the weekend. So we have to accommodate everybody. Joe can come, but maybe his wife Mary can't because there's no wine or cider. So we had to address that.
Now, are you making your own cider or wine yet?
Nope.
No, that's a whole nother. you'd want a whole nother.
That's why we got
yeah.
that's why we got the restaurant license, so we could serve that.
Do you serve food on site, or what kind of food options do you have?
Wood-fired pizza. We bought a brick oven, mobile pizza oven, and we use spent grain from the brewery in the dough. And
tell them why it's mobile.
Well, at first they wouldn't let us. I started throwing pizzas out. I didn't know it was a big deal. This is about 6 years ago. And the town shows up and says, you can't do that. You need a license. And I went, great, screw you. I'll give it away. So for a year, we gave away like 5,000 pizzas. It's free pizza every night we're open. And we started, people started coming to the other side of the pizza oven and going, psst, psst, I'll pay for one of those for my table. So we had to go and get a license so we could sell them.
They didn't want free pizza?
No, they wanted free pizza, but other people were saying, screw them, we'll pay for them.
Yeah, because they didn't want to, they wanted their own pizza to take to the table.
And they didn't want to wait.
With the free pizza, you can only get a slice at a time.
Put them out slices.
So explain to me how the business model worked there. Were you just feeding people pizza so they would drink a little bit more, or what was the whole motivation to get back into food?
What is that saying?
It's going chumming.
When you go fishing, you throw chum in the water. And that's what we did with the pizza. We gave it away free for a year and then started charging.
It just brought more and more people up, this free pizza idea.
I mean, who doesn't want to go somewhere where they can get free pizza? That's the easy selling point there. I mean, if you went so far, I could get for dinner tonight.
The winter before COVID, every Sunday we would have free pizza Sunday. And we'd put out a buffet table and just keep the pizzas flying. And we doubled or tripled our head count. People were telling their kids to not eat starting on Thursday.
No, were you making just, basics like pepperoni cheese pizza, or was you getting a little more creative at the time?
Oh, yeah. We do the mashed potato and bacon with chive, buffalo chicken.
Whoa. Pause for a second. I'm not familiar with that. Is that a Maine thing, or is that something you created, Paul?
Yeah, I created it. Sure.
So walk me through that, please.
Okay, you take mashed potatoes, and you put a little layer of olive oil on the dough, and then you spread the mashed potato. You make it so it's loose, and then you put bacon sprinkles all over it and chives on top, and throw her in the oven buoy.
And that is a pizza you're actually serving. Is that something, you created that just took off?
It's one of our biggest sellers. The other big seller is the cheeseburger deluxe. That's with cheeseburger, special sauce, tomato sauce, cheese, and potato tots on it.
So what do you call the mashed potato pizza? That's extremely unique. Potato pizza. Okay, well, that makes sense.
The one with mashed potato is shepherd's pie.
I love shepherd's pie. It sounds fantastic.
It's just a deconstructed shepherd's pie.
Ooh, deconstructed.
Deconstructed.
Old friend.
So Abraham, with your biology degree, did you ever expect to be selling potato pizza and work in a brewery?
No.
But
what do you expect when you're just graduating college anyways?
Tell them what you told me.
What?
Dad, I don't want to be in the restaurant business. And I went, son, I pointed at the driveway and I went, picture this. We put a pizza oven in.
And I was like,
we put a pizza oven in, and they're going to come up the driveway, up the hill. From miles around, they're going to come. And he goes, get off me. This ain't Field of Dreams.
And so how long from having the initial idea, to serve beer and pizza did this thing actually, take to get open?
Well, first, just to go back to, so in
71,
85, no, just to go back to about when we started, my mom would actually bring lasagna and meatballs over and different food that people could eat. And that was kind of like we were giving away food, because you got to imagine we just opened, we're a little teeny garage, and there's a few tables out front and a jockey box. So there's probably 7 or 10 people, and we want to feed them. So we just bring over food.
Well, we don't want to serve alcohol with no food.
Right, which we were doing. We were only open Fridays. That was it. We were just serving beer. And then we started serving food.
And you don't come here unless my wife feeds you. I'll tell you that right now. I don't care what the circumstance is. She will feed you.
Or you'll leave with food, one or the other, something. Well, one day we were, my brewer and I were in the garage, and this pizza oven came up the driveway, and I was like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Who is this? This pizza oven?" I think the guy delivered it, didn't he, or something? So I went outside and I'm like, "Hey, what's happening?" And the guy's like, "Oh, I'm here for Paul." And I said, "Oh, really? Yeah, he bought this oven." And I'm like, "What? He bought this oven?" So it was this really small oven the guy made himself. He's an engineer in Merchant Marine, I think, actually. And he made this oven himself, and my dad bought it. And we just started slinging pizzas. I had no idea what was going on. Like, we're just like, "What are you going to do now?" He's like, "I'm going to just, you do beer, I do pizza." I'm like, and that's how it's been. But, it started as just pizzas, giving away pizzas. And people would go, it wasn't even the beer. It was like, "Oh, you guys have free pizza, don't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's all we were known for." And so people come up, and then there's beer too, So that's really where like it took off, to the point where people were buying the pizza now because they were sick of waiting for free pizza. They just wanted their own pizza. They wanted to leave with a pizza. So then when someone came up to the pizza oven and said, "I want to buy a pizza," we were like, "Well, we don't know how much they are. They're free." Like, the guy's like, "Well, name a price." We're like, "I don't know, $10. And it was like, "Great." And we started selling pizzas. And that's kind of how that started.
So did you gradually convert from the free pizza model to, hey, give us $10 or whatever you got in your pocket?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, after that, we were like, wow, it's so good. People want to buy it. And we're like, great.
People want food.
But there was obviously a problem. I mean, now, imagine you no longer have free pizza. This is an issue, So we had to kind of be really sensitive to it and say, well, we'll still have free pizza, but you can buy it too. And we phased it out slowly, real slowly.
How did that affect like your traffic and your number of guests? Did you see any decline because you stopped giving it away?
No, we just had people pissing and moaning about, it's like you're giving them free, and then no longer free. So
people will kick. They would kick even if you hung them with a new rope. They'll complain about anything.
I've never heard that one. It's a little.
So Abraham, you mentioned a minute ago that, one of you did beer, one of you did pizza, but obviously your brewery is a little bit more than just making pizza, selling beer. How did you divide up like the actual business of the brewery? Who did what? Talk to me a little bit about that.
So I did the brewery for
inside the door,
inside, and he was the outside,
the tap room.
But we'd always come together and help with ideas.
Other, yeah.
Should we do this? Should we do that?
We'd just stay out of each other's way in that certain domain, but we would collaborate and talk about other things as owners do. But he had his managers, I had my managers, and we had a chain of command, and it worked well that way for us.
And is that still the same method that you use today?
Yeah, it would be impossible for one or two guys to run the whole show. And yeah, I've got a manager in the tap room, and I've noticed when I go over there on the weekends, if I try to get too involved, I just get in the way. Abraham and I have been fortunate to have good people work with us. And, they do their job. And our philosophy has been, if we hired you to do a job and we're doing it, then we've got the wrong person. And that's worked out well.
No, that's great. Now, looking at like your guests that come through the doors, you mentioned earlier, you still clean up like some Bud Light, Miller Lite cans, from the yard sometimes. What's the customer type who's coming to Funky Bow? I mean, are they people who are familiar with craft already? Or are you teaching them more?
People are crazy.
It's everyone.
It's everyone.
I mean, it's everyone.
All walks of life.
It's this is a place for everyone.
It's turned into a destination. Now we've got the people that play disc golf, and they love to smoke weed and drink beer, and they bring their boom boxes with them. And we made it so they had to go from hole 5 to T6. They have to walk right through the tap room.
They don't have to throw the disc through the tap room yet, do they?
From that basket to the tee out behind the tap room. So in the summer when we're outdoors, they go right through that mess.
No, that's awesome. So when you get these guys and girls and people who come through your tap room who don't know a whole lot about what you're doing, have you made just some basic beers to win them over?
We do. Abraham and I came up with a Kolsch style beer for what we say people that don't like hops. And people that will drink, I'll use Allagash as an example. Okay. The Allagash White. If they like Allagash White, they're going to love this.
Yeah, I mean, having an approach to beers is definitely important.
Run out for a second. We have a distributor pull in.
Well, Paul, I'm going to use this time to ask you a question while Abraham's not here. Then this is a really perfect setup. Then, working with your son's probably pretty challenging sometimes, especially after you took a few years break from one another. What are some of the challenges you guys face? Going head to head, sometimes running the same business.
It doesn't allow you to get mad and walk away for long. And I can speak for myself. I really shouldn't speak for Abraham. I've learned that. Excuse me. You have to be a lot more mature than you were. And you have to learn to respect other people's views and have a damn good reason why you don't think it's going to work. And there's times where I get, not a lot of times, but sometimes where he won't call for a while because he's upset with me. But in the matter of 24, 48 hours, it's over the dam. And we travel, we go on vacations, him and his wife and me and my wife, we travel a lot together. We hang out a lot together. It's almost, it's a good thing. But buyer beware. Be careful what you wish for. There's not, you got to have your head screwed on straight, I would say.
So when you first had the idea to open a brewery with your son, was it something you had thought about, or was it more so, hey, we really enjoy home brewing together, let's go pro?
Abraham wanted to go to California, to Davis, and I didn't want him leaving. We both liked beer. The brewery business was just starting to take off. And here we are, and I had the money, and Abraham had his degree in microbiology, which has come in real handy. And Abraham makes a very clean, good beer. No matter what his style, it comes out to style. And it's been very received well in the state of Maine. We're a mandatory place in all of Hannaford's with 3 SKUs. I mean, that's quite
a... So how big is your brew house? Someone asked a question on that one. How big is the brew house?
10.
10 barrels. And how much do you produce a year?
The process works like this. Brew 3 times, brew twice a day, put it into a 20 barrel. Do it 3 days in a row and you get 3 20s. Let them finish out, transfer them to a 60, and that's where they're dry hopped. And for other states, we deal with other breweries in other states. We do what's called an alternating partnership. And if in the summertime we're over capacity, we deal with a couple of breweries in Maine to overcome that. So we're locked in to how much we can do up here now. In Lyman, we had to have a zoning change and contract zone, so we can't build anymore. And it's working out quite well for this new thing called an alternating partnership. The day you brew there, that's your brewery.
And how many different breweries do you have relationships like that?
3 or 4, depending on the season.
And you'll go down for those days, and do you handle the work yourself?
No, we spend a lot of time developing the recipes and making sure everything's right, and then we'll go down. It depends on how new they are to the game, but we've got 1 or 2 right now that they're spot on every time.
And that's mainly what you use for distribution, or do you bring some of that back to the farm just to have the extra capacity on hand?
No, we do what we do at the brewery for the tap room here.
So we had a question, approximately how many barrels do you brew in a month? Do you move in a month?
Oh, Jesus. 240 out of our brewery.
So you stay pretty busy.
It's a very busy place up here. We'll do 800 to 1,000 people a weekend here.
Even through the pandemic, are you still seeing traffic like that?
Pardon me?
Are you still seeing traffic, pretty heavy traffic through the pandemic?
Well, we're hamstrung by COVID.
Yeah.
We're allowed to have 50 people in the tap room and 100 people outside. So, but in the course of, say, a busy Saturday, a nice weather Saturday, we'll rotate 100 people out of there 3 times. and 50 people out of the tap room 3 times.
Well, I guess with all the outdoor space you have, you can keep people nice and safe.
Right. But
Do you see?
it's a natural thing for people, no matter how far you space them out, to come together. People are
So
herd mentality.
how do you handle that? Are people like stay pretty close to their own families and friends, or you have to kind of make sure people
I go around. I'm always here because it's my gig. I do this. Abraham does the brewery stuff, but I'm always on site unless I'm away. And I'll go around and I'll act as the governor's policeman, make sure people have their masks on, social distance. And since March, we've only been reported by people to the Nazi hotline. There's a thing in Maine where you can go on the CDC website and report people without leaving your name. And we've been reported 5 times. The last one was large crowds, no masks, singing and live music. Well, let's address them one at a time. There was a fair amount of people here, not more than 100 outside, not more than 50 inside. People were good about wearing their masks. I had to remind people certain times, hey, I'll even walk to the store and forget my mask and have to go back and get it. So if you're drinking a beer, you might forget to put it back on. So I remind them. And in Maine, you can have live music in a room that serves food and or alcohol. So the tap room is separate from the brewery. So we have a ground level loading dock that I made a plexiglass 14 by 16 covering out of 2x4s that we put over it with holes in the bottom for speaker wires to come out. Their speakers are outside and they're protected inside, and it's a state sanctioned room. So yeah, I got reported. I deal with the state 5 times since March, so that's not a bad thing. One time for not wiping the tables down enough. Once for the staff not wearing their masks. That's bullshit. And some woman called one of my staff members the C word once, so I had to throw her ass out. And we got reported on Monday for large dogs in the pizza area licking utensils and tables. Yeah.
What did I miss?
When you can report things anonymously, it's going to happen.
Well, at the end of the day, I think you're still trying to put out the best experience possible for anyone who comes to the farm and comes to the brewery.
And everybody, I don't care who you are, what you are. Everybody's welcome here, and you should feel safe.
Well, that's great. I love it. I can't wait to visit someday. No, Abraham, thanks for, I guess you received your delivery just now.
Yeah, I had some empty cans. I had to unload from our distributor. Sorry.
So I was asking your dad a few questions while you were out for a moment, and I'll ask you one of the same questions. It's probably it's always challenging working with family members. What's your opinion on some of the challenges you guys face? Have any that you want to talk about, or what's it like just literally working side by side with your dad?
Well, I think first, before I answer that, you should do something next time where you would take the person and tell them to go in the other room.
All right.
And you'd ask a question. And then
that's kind of what we did. You just left willingly.
Okay. And then I'll answer the same question, but I wouldn't know what they said.
Well, now you don't know what he says, so now you get your opportunity.
It's challenging at a lot of times, and you're basically, so for instance, just think about it. It's not your boss, it's your dad. And so there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. There's probably some stuff you'd say to your dad that you wouldn't say to your boss. Probably actually fires up the conversation even more. So, we'll go from just friendly banter about something we disagree about or have different ideas with. And then it will turn into an all out, a pretty good argument that sometimes could last, a week.
Are there any examples you can remember? If you feel uncomfortable talking in front of your dad, we can just ask him to leave the room again.
Yeah, telephone.
Yeah, go into the bathroom.
Cut it out.
Sorry, I got a dog scratching me.
The telephone.
I would say,
your phone on.
Yeah, the telephone is a good one. It happened a long time ago. Turn your freaking phone on. I said, I'm not working for you. I'm working with you. Way different, right? There's a G string
and a Citra.
Oh, cheers.
I think one of the most recent ones is just we have different opinions about things, even though they're it's not our territory necessarily, you know? And so, like I said, I work on the brewery, he works on the tap room, you know, opinions fly. So sometimes it's just the wrong time for those opinions. And it starts a little bit of a mess, you know, but between the two of us, and we both have to kind of, because we're both strong, opinionated people. You know, we're both smart people. We want to do what's best, what we think's best. It may not be necessarily our territory that we're embarking on. You know,
it's tough when you're right.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm right all the time, he has a big, because I am. So he has a big problem with that. You know, so
I was wrong once.
What happened, Paul?
I was wrong once. I thought I was wrong, and I really wasn't.
He thought this beer was really good, and he just obviously doesn't have a palate, you know, for.
Oh, don't ever tell us something wrong with Abraham's beer. Oh my God! Even if you're joking, it takes him hours to get out of it.
No. I mean, you know, when you're starting off brewing, you want everyone to tell you what they think. When in reality, you don't. You know, but so it's like, I don't know about this, and you spent like a month trying to figure this beer out, and they're still like, oh, I don't know, you know, and now you're like, you get really irritated, you know. It's these people are putting it in their mouth, so you're pretty sensitive to commentary, you know.
I can understand that. Has there ever been an instance where either of you thought you wanted to walk away from the family business?
Yes. Oh, are you kidding? Have you talked to people who own family businesses?
Well, I own the 25
acres. Does that happen, though? I mean, is it like the situation where you just walk away for 24, 48 hours? Or, you know, are there times you really thought about, man, I don't know if I enjoy this anymore? I mean, I know that's getting a little deep and heavy.
There's a little bit of everything in there, you know?
I'm sure we both have felt that.
If you've ever known someone with a family business, yeah. I mean, there's times where you're like, well, I'm going to take my family and I'm getting out of here. This is toxic. You know, this is bad. You know, I don't want to be part of this. Where's this even going? And then maybe 4 or 5 days later, you've calmed down and you come back and go, oh, hey.
It's anybody in any job. If it's not fun, it's better left undone.
You know, if the wives are getting involved, like his wife, my mom, and then my wife, if they're having to talk through this, not us, then it's gotten really bad.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, I've talked to Paul. Paul hasn't reached out to Abraham. Well, I told Abraham that I'm not going over there if him and Paul aren't, you know. So it's like, it gets to a point where the wives are going, guys, talk to each other. Just say something. And I'll come in his house and I'll go, hey. You're like,
fuck
hey,
you.
What's up? By the way, this is Bo.
Hey, Bo.
Come on.
So what is your best advice for any other family-run brewery or father-son brewery? You know, if you could give them
family run.
Run, Forrest, run.
My advice would be to
think about it.
Make sure that you haven't talked to the person for 7 years before you start a brewery. Because that's probably the only reason that this lasted this long, because we had that initial bond after 7 years that has held us together. You know, it's like stronger than it was before. So I think that the strength, the glue there from the separation and then coming back,
we don't want to do that again,
was holding us together. It wasn't like we were like, well, I don't want to just not talk to you again. I've already done that. So we're either going to get through this together or the whole thing's being thrown out the door. That's it. You know?
No, I love it.
And it's easy when times are good and everything's perfect to make it's okay. It's when COVID hits and other shit, maybe when you break a hop contract and shit goes downhill there. It's the hard times that proves what you're worth.
I grabbed them one day.
Just like that.
Said, you listen to me.
He said,
that's what I said to him out in the driveway.
He goes, I don't work for you. I'm your partner.
Are you going to grab your boss by the chin and say, you listen to me? No, this is a family business. There's some weird dynamics going on here.
Well, let's look ahead, because you obviously got past all those tough family dynamics to create quite a destination. How far do people travel to come to Funky Bo?
From the West Coast.
Yeah. How do they know about you, Paul? Like, why do you think you've got that reputation of being somewhere people want to go, say, vacation?
Word of mouth, Facebook, social media, and we're embarking on a new platform. This, as of last week, there's this Harvest Host, it's called, and it's a platform for RVers. And if you sign up and Harvest Host accepts you, you need to have a few spaces for RVs to come in and park overnight. They don't need hookups or all this other stuff. It's just a park. And it's free the first night, but they'll come to your venue. And it's a North American type platform where you're traveling around, you come into Maine, you say, okay, I'm in Kennebunkport. And you push in Kennebunkport on the menu, and it shows you, say, breweries. And it shows Funky Bow as one that has the availability to park 7 53-foot RVs. And it shows and lists everything you do. So, but prior to that, it's word of mouth. It's the beer. Summer people come here, and I mean, what do you think?
I think it's totally word of mouth. I mean, if you're coming up to Maine and you're in this area, the York County area, and you say, you know, I want to be outside. I have dogs. I have family. Oh, you got to go to Funky Bow, because they're going to allow your dogs and your family to run around. And it's, you know, I think it's that kind of thing. It's just people know that's where you should go. At least experience it once, because it's an experience for the customer. You know, it's something that they can totally grab onto that is going to fulfill almost like an emotional need, like something that they really is going to fulfill a void that they wanted in their vacation. You know, that's something really interesting.
I mean, you were driving up a hill through ledges and rocks, like going to a cowboy box canyon, literally. And you're in the middle and there's no neighbors. And it's pretty cool.
So I'm actually surprised you don't have an all-out campground on the premise. Is that something you don't? Is that just too many guests full time?
We do have a yurt. We put up a yurt 3 or 4 years ago and made it like, it looks like a yurt on the outside. It's got a nice deck with hammocks and a fire pit. But you go inside and the accompaniments are it's like the Ritz-Carlton, wood floors, bunk beds, and a queen bed. The beds, the frames are Maine cedar, handmade. Pillow top. There's Tommy Bahama bedding inside. The only yurt in New England that has an inside toilet buoy.
Did you build it yourself?
Yeah. Right. Well, with help.
So do you have that on Airbnb, or how do you advertise that? Is you have to like know somebody?
It's Firefly Yurts at Funky Bow Brewery on Airbnb.
That sounds amazing. So you've talked about whose job it is in the brew house and whose job's in the tap room. Who cleans the yurt each night after, you know, your guest has made a wreck of it?
The staff. The staff gets paid extra to clean the yurt. It was actually 5 years ago or 4 years ago this week that I said to my wife, what do you say we go to Missoula, Montana for Valentine's Day? And she goes, sure, that'd be great. 2 days later, she comes back and she goes, why are we going to Missoula? What do you got up your sleeve? I said, well, there's a yurt company there that makes yurts, and I want to visit with them. So we went out, spent a week there, and talked to them, decided we'd buy their yurt, and then came home, ordered it, and they shipped it.
And how busy does it stay? I mean, does it stay busy during the winter? Is there heat?
July and August last year, there was 2 days that it wasn't rented.
That sounds absolutely amazing.
Well,
when I come up here neck of the woods, I'm definitely going to that yurt. And for anyone interested right now, I want to give you guys a little screen time for that yurt, because I don't know if you can see it on your end, but that looks amazing.
Hey, it's 50 yards behind the brewery. And I got to say, we close the brewery every day we're open, which is 3 days a week. We shut it down at 9 o'clock. My parents used to say there's nothing good out there after midnight. We say there's nothing good out there after 9.
And looking at that rating you have on Airbnb, I would guess that maybe your yurt rating on Airbnb is a little bit higher than your Untapped rating, unfortunately. Is that probably?
I don't know. What's the Untapped rating?
I'm not going to look at that right now, but, you know, that's a pretty high yurt rating is all I'm saying there. I'm sure Abraham makes fantastic beer.
I think we got a pretty good rating on Untapped.
It's hard to be a 5 on a.
Yeah, it's hard to be a 5. So 4.93 is pretty good in any platform.
Well, but you haven't looked yet, though.
I mean, we have 40,000, I think almost 40,000 ratings on Untappd. It's a lot.
So what's next for Funky Bow? I mean, it seems like you guys have grown this business together. You've done weird pizzas. You've done awesome yurts. You've done, disc golf courses. I would imagine when people come to Funky Bow, they're not just hanging out for an hour. How long do people normally stay with you guys?
The average person stays long enough to spend $20.
And I bet you're always thinking of ways they can spend a little bit more by giving them free pizza like you used to do.
The ice skating rink is free.
One more time?
The ice skating rink, you come up, check in, you're a customer, you can skate free.
Do you provide skate rental, or do they have to bring their own?
Now, what do you want me to go skating for you, too?
I was hoping I could ride on your back or something, maybe. I've got weak legs sometimes.
You can. Play It Again Sports is like 10 miles from here.
So you got the ice skating. Is there anything in the plans? I know you mentioned a few things earlier, but what do we have to look forward to?
Maybe a Ferris wheel.
I mean, I can't tell if you're joking or not. Do you really plan to possibly get a Ferris wheel? I mean,
no, axe throwing.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing axe throwing cages, but I don't want to do anything. He's got it. We love to shoot weapons, but I don't think you should drink beer and shoot or do archery. I don't know about that. There are bars in Portland that have axe throwing. I don't get it. But who am I to judge?
Well, I haven't done it yet myself. So, as we kind of wind this down, I've got one more question for you guys. We'll bring it back to like a heartwarming type situation right now. Now, I won't make you leave the room for one another, but Paul, you guys have rebuilt this relationship. You own an awesome brewery that I can't wait to visit when I finally make it up to Maine. But, Paul, what's the best part about working with your son? And if you need to cry, you can go grab a tissue.
Family together. There's not much else out there but family. And when you can keep your family close like this, and, hey, look, the staff is part of the family at times because they're so close. They need help with this or help with that. They're part of your family, and that's just the way it is. And you have blips in the staff family, you have blips in your blood family, any family organization, even in the Army, your family in the platoon, you have blips. So whatever family you've got going, you're always going to have blips. It's not whether you have them or not, it's how you come out the other side. So it's awesome. Close because you don't have a whole lot left after there's no family.
It's amazing what you two have been able to build. And Abraham, from your perspective, what's your favorite part about working with your dad?
Oh, I don't. It's just a long list of stuff. I would say just being able to be with him. I think is the coolest thing. And shooting the shit and talking about life and business. And I've learned so much about business, hands-on wise.
Abraham hasn't told you what his venture is right now, has he?
What's my venture?
What is it, Abraham? What's your next venture?
Half of getting his MBA at Chapel Hill.
Congratulations. All online?
Yeah.
What are you getting your MBA in?
Oh,
do you have any goals with that?
Yeah, you can pick different
forensic accountant, so he can keep an eye on his old man.
Right. That's what I'm doing. I'm tracking all his beans. The bean counter. No. It's an MBA, and you can pick, you can pick entrepreneurship or whatever. But the first, the first year is basically just all core.
Pretty proud of my kid.
But anyways,
that's awesome.
We're already putting some of it to use, and my dad is owned businesses for 40 years.
My whole life.
He's got a different perspective than I do on things, obviously. He
wants to put me on QuickBooks. I'm saying, get that away from me. Let me make some money.
It might give you a little bit of time.
The brewery's on QuickBooks. I want to put your other business on QuickBooks.
Yeah, no. Abraham's the first child in our family to go to school, let alone graduate school. And You know, people say to me, "Where'd you go to school?" And South Vietnam. So I'm pretty proud of it.
You went to South Vietnam?
South Vietnam, duck and run.
But I would say that this is the best part. This is why I'm here, right? I mean, this whole thing, what we're doing with you, what I'm hanging out with him.
I mean, how many people get to do this with their kid?
Being with
I love the dynamic that you guys have, the way you play off one another. You know, while it's not something that you said, I bet you two are one of the main reasons people actually come to Funky Bow, just to get that experience because they know you're real people.
The owners in the store, they love it.
No, you guys have great personalities. This has been a blast today. I've really enjoyed learning about both of you a little bit more, and I'm really looking forward to sharing a beer together during better times. And, you know, I expect that yurt to be available when I plan my trip up there.
You give me a heads up, I'll make sure it's there.
Hey, I don't know when it's going to be, but I guarantee it's going to happen, Paul.
It sleeps 6. It all depends on how well you know each other.
Yeah, well, my wife and my son, we can definitely make that work. So, Paul and Abraham, this has been a great time. I think your story is really inspiring to a lot of people. Thanks for being willing to talk about it, and we'll have that beer before too long. Cheers,
awesome.
gentlemen.
Hey, it was very nice. Thank you.